tonight been inspiring? So let me tell you how my evening went. I started off being so confident, just ready to take on this stage. And then we started talking about things like zits. And then I thought, wow, maybe I've got a zit on my face. And then we started talking about things like bare feet on the stage. And I thought, I haven't had a pedicure in so long. I'm kind of embarrassed if I ever took off my shoes. But then I remember back to our first speaker. It's okay if we fail. Hopefully tonight, I won't walk away a failure. Hopefully tonight, I will offer you something that can at least uplift you and perhaps add a little spice onto the things you've already heard tonight. And what we're going to talk about is really a new law of the universe, the universal law of flow. And so what I want to do, I want you all to participate. It's been a long evening. And when I say the word knock, I want you to knock 3 times. So let's practice. Okay, great. So when the universe knocks, are you ready to answer the door? Let me tell you what happened to me. The universe actually did knock on my door this October. I was sitting in my home office. I work from home. I'm a bank consultant. And I was in my home office, and near me were my hairy herding dogs. I have 2 wonderful mutts that are my new office mates. So I was just doing what I always do, and the phone rang. And I picked it up. I recognized the area code. It was like, great, this is one of my bank prospects, actually a credit union. And I was so excited. I picked up the phone, and it was Eric on the other line. He said, Nancy, I'm sorry I haven't returned your phone calls, but I wanted to let you know I want to do business with you. And I was so excited. I've had this new job for about 6 months, and I thought, wow, this is fantastic, my first sale. I was so happy. And then all of a sudden, right outside my window, I saw a truck and I heard a boop, 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 like a diesel truck. Well, remember who my office mates are, right? My hairy herding dogs. They heard the truck too, and we live on a quiet dead-end street. Trucks are not common down my street. So they started getting kind of uppity, and they started thinking about, wow, what are we going to do? So they started running in the living room. Meanwhile, I'm putting the phone on mute because this is my new client that just told me yes. I put it on mute, and I start hurrying into the living room. I go out there. I grab one of the dogs. I have 2 dogs, as I mentioned. One of them is an old girl, and she's a little easier to contain, so I grabbed her by the collar, and the phone's on mute. I'm trying to listen, shove her in the office, close the door, and then I get the other dog. Now, the other dog is a very frisky heeler husky mix, and he's super strong. So I grabbed him as well, and I'm just pulling, meanwhile, trying to listen to Eric this whole time, tell me all about these plans he has. And I shove him in my office, and I'm thinking, great, my tragedy is diverted. I took the phone off mute, and all of a sudden, guess what I heard? A knock. Ding dong! All of a sudden, the dogs went crazy. Ruff, 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 ruff. The phone's off mute, keep in mind. And so all of a sudden, I had to make a choice. And I said, Eric, I'm so sorry. There's somebody at my door. Let me call you right back. I hung up the phone. I went to the door, and I couldn't imagine what was this big truck and who was at my door at this time during the day. And wouldn't you know it, it was the Goodwill. I forgot I had called the Goodwill to pick up all my old stuff. And right at the moment that I was getting a yes on a business opportunity was the moment I got rid of all my old stuff. And I had one of those Oprah aha moments. And I thought, wow, this is truly amazing. If I let this stuff go, what are the opportunities that come into my life? Now, this is nothing new. I mentioned before the law of universal flow. It's nothing new. In fact, Lao Tzu talked about it over 2,000 years ago. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. Who here has heard of the law of attraction? Or The Secret? Pretty much everyone. Who's told a secret? Anybody told a secret? Okay, that's pretty much everybody in the room. So everybody in the room has either heard of The Secret or told The Secret. The law of universal flow is another life principle. And how it works is that in order to become somebody new, you have to let go of who you are. Now, if you've ever watched the show Hoarders, anybody watch the show Hoarders? I'll guarantee you it'll make you so motivated to clean. But if nothing else, if you watch the show Hoarders, you will see the negative effect of the law of universal flow. Imagine these people with so much stuff in their house that they can't even move. I mean, all of this stuff is totally blocking their life, blocking their energy in life. You know, they're creating a little path. The people in their lives will no longer even go in their house. A lot of times they've lost relationships, all because of the accumulation of this stuff. And so the law works both ways. It's up to you to decide how you want to work it. Which brings, one of the things I would like you to learn is the truths of the law of universal flow. And the first one is, if you let it go and watch life flow. So that's the key. You let it go and you watch your life flow. Now, sometimes, as I mentioned, there is a negative part to this whole practice. And what happened to me, you know, we've been hearing about pursuing our dreams. And I had a dream back in the 90s. I had a dream to be a newspaper publisher. And so I put my whole heart and soul into publishing this newspaper. It got to the point where my husband and I was married at the time, we had this great idea, but unfortunately the money wasn't coming in. So he was taking cash advances on the credit card, and I kind of knew, but I really didn't want to know. Ever have that kind of a situation? Especially when it comes to your dream. Especially when it comes to your dream. Now, I wouldn't say no, no matter what. And we ended up getting a wonderful new contract. And the unfortunate thing was, after we won this contract, they decided we weren't fulfilling the obligation. And so as soon as we had this great opportunity, it went away. I still wouldn't give it up. No matter what, I wasn't going to give this dream up. So I kept on pursuing it. I printed an issue. And then I got a phone call from the printer who was printing my newspaper, telling me that the check I wrote him had bounced. So in addition to the credit card cash advances, my husband was also taking money out of our business checking account. So basically my business was over. But I still wouldn't give it up. I still wouldn't give it up. I found some investors who were willing to take a chance on me. They of course didn't know that my house was in foreclosure. I had no money. I basically had lost my car. I was really struggling, meanwhile, with an 11-year-old daughter to support at the time. So that was my life. It was time for me to let it go. It really was time for me to let it go, but I wouldn't do it. And then, guess what came into my life? That knock. Yeah, this time it wasn't a positive knock of the Goodwill driver. It was actually the sheriff's deputy. And I looked out my peephole, and I saw the officer. I had no idea what he wanted. I had all of these clothes piled on the floor because I was doing laundry, and it was kind of one of those embarrassing moments, like, oh my God, I got to let the police guy in, and I've got all my underwear on the floor. But I let him in, and he said some words that I will never, ever forget in my life. He asked me my name, and then he said, "You're under arrest for felony check fraud." And I was like, what? I mean, do I look like somebody who belongs in jail? No, I really didn't. But that check I wrote had bounced. I hadn't paid the printer, and that's where I found myself. And so sometimes, I know it's always wonderful to pursue your dreams, but you have to balance that when the universe is telling you that it's time to move on. Which brings us to the second truth of the law of universal flow. When I block change, I limit my range. So I did have to, of course, when you're thrown in jail, you have to make some quick life decisions. I got out, the charges were dismissed. Everything worked out okay with that. But I was forced to take on a new career. And I did establish myself back in a career in marketing, and I've pursued a financial services industry career, and I've made a success of my life. I've gotten an MBA, my daughter's happy in college, getting her master's degree. But if I didn't have the courage to move on, the universe was going to yank it out from under me. We've heard tonight about some people who've had those career moments. I remember the throwing up before you're going to work, when you know it's time to make a change. And the thing is, if you don't make that change when you know it's time, you're going to end up with the meanest boss in the world, or you're going to get fired, or something terrible is going to happen. And so just keep in mind that when the universe calls you to make a shift, pay attention to it. And sometimes you can avoid a lot of pain in your life when you do so. Now, when you're thinking about this whole thing of career aspirations and what you would do in the world if anything was possible. That's all wonderful, but what about romance? Has anybody ever, well, we heard the romance talk tonight. Anybody feel stuck in romance ever in your life? Okay, some kind of half hands are coming up. Sure, everybody does. Well, I wasn't really hanging on to old romances. I was hanging on to old momentums of romance. Anybody have any old cards from boyfriends, ex-husbands, maybe some old mug, an old mug in your closet, something like that? Okay, this is what I found. Remember all this stuff I gave away to the Goodwill, okay? I had all of these cards in a big bag in my closet. And so in this big bag, I was like, why do I have all these? I mean, this boyfriend I dated 9 years ago, and I was supposedly the love of his life. Unfortunately, I didn't realize he had many other loves of his life. So I had all these cards expressing his great adoration and admiration for me. And I started reading them, and I started getting that throw-up feeling that you were talking about. So I decided I was going to burn them all. So I put them in the fireplace, and I felt a little weird burning them, but it felt good after a while. And guess what happened when I released that old? Made room for something new. And there's my new romance sitting in the audience tonight. So within 3 weeks of burning those cards and letters, I met this wonderful man, and I will tell you, it's like sometimes I feel like he's a figment of my imagination. Do you ever have like those parallel universe experiences? Like, how did I get on this good track? That's what it feels like. So I can't promise you that if you let go of old stuff in your life, whether it's old stuff, old behaviors, old momentums, that you're going to win new business, or you're going to avoid getting in jail, or that you're going to meet an amazing partner. But what I can tell you is if you do allow yourself to be free from your past, you're going to create something that's more amazing than you can imagine. You're going to allow the opportunity to become the person that the universe is asking you to be. And one thing to keep in mind with this whole idea is if you hang on too long, your opportunities will be gone. So when the universe knocks at your door, my question for you, are you ready to answer it?